Welcome to Flatline to Beatline. I am your host, Nightshade. Let's do this.
Burn it down!
My guest is Wicca BluMoon. Join us as we discuss his YouTube channel, Etsy shop, and spiritual path. Let's break through the noise. Before we begin this episode, I wish to address a very serious matter and to bring your awareness to it if you haven't already been made aware of it. On March 7th, 2020, there will be an event held in Austin, Texas called Witch Fest 2020, but not without its obstacles. Apparently, there are right-wing Christian protesters that are going to make sure that this event does not happen. They have apparently been posting public notices in the local area and, of course, online to the highest levels. This was made public by Matt Aron, who will be a keynote speaker at this event. And on his Instagram page, he has taken a picture of the flyers and other things. He has also written an article about this just a couple of days ago on Pathos. That link will be in the show notes, and I encourage all of my listeners to read the damn article because it is important. In addition, he will be a guest on this show on March 1st, hence 6 days prior to him speaking at this event. And of course, I will be discussing this matter with him as well. So what is my role in all of this? I am calling on all witches and pagans of all paths to unify and support Witchfest 2020 and its speakers. Regardless of our differences, regardless of how small or major those differences are, it does not matter. Support this event and its speakers. In addition, I am calling on all witches and pagans of all paths who will be attending this event in person to remain calm and level-headed. Do not get baited by these simple-minded automatons that would eventually result in disaster, and we do not want that. It is best to simply ignore them. And I encourage you all who will be at that event to remain safe and don't do anything stupid. And I know this is a shock to my listeners coming from me. I am encouraging everyone across the board to remain calm and level-headed. Don't go off doing something stupid. With that being said, Blue, thank you so much for coming on the show. It is greatly appreciated.
Well, thank you for having me. I really enjoy the show, and I think that it will be a great way for other people to be able to get their names out there.
Oh, thanks so much, man. That actually means a lot coming from you. It really does. Now, I always try to get my listeners to, get a feel for my guests, to get to connect with them, so to speak. So my first question to you is, how long have you been practicing Wicca and witchcraft, and what led you to journey down this path?
I've been doing this since 1994, so I've been doing it for over 24 years. I don't count my year-and-a-day training, of course. What led me down this path was for several years before that, I really didn't feel like religion was a thing for me. It just seemed like everything was just there to kind of brainwash you and lead you to do things that weren't by definition by God. But I started hearing a voice call to me, and I didn't quite understand it at that time, but I started to think that I was going crazy, which could be understandable, especially whenever you start hearing voices and don't know where they're coming from. But I started doing studying on different religions, and I finally found a book about Wicca, and it wasn't very easy to find either, because back in early 1990s, the internet was nowhere near what it is today, as as you probably remember, you couldn't just go online and be like, "Hey, what's this about? What's that about?" It was very limited to what you could do on the internet. Now I think there's just a river of information, and it's harder to be able to know where to actually begin. But I found a book by Ravenwolf, and I think you actually just start or have just read it. It was called Teen Witch.
Yeah, I'm very familiar with Silver Ravenwolf's books. She is a very controversial figure, but she has brought a lot of people into practicing witchcraft. So I do give her much respect for that.
Oh yeah, it is a great book. If you haven't read it yet, I highly suggest it. And people who are starting to start on their path, I always suggest that book or another book of hers called Riding a Broomstick. I believe it was what it is. So I mean, it is she has opened up the doorway for me while I was reading that book. And whenever I started to do my meditations very quickly into it, I would say probably about within a month of getting that book, the goddess actually showed herself to me, and I knew it was her instantly.
Now, many people that are witches start out in witchcraft, Wicca. And then move on as they progress in their studies and experience. Why have you decided to stay in Wicca?
I've studied other styles of magic, but I still do my still grounded in Wicca. And the reason for that is because I I'm still strongly, I would say, anchored into to the goddess and horn god. Those are my two main deities that that speak to me quite literally sometimes. I hear their voices the loudest.
You don't specify exactly who the horn god is or the goddess, the Lord and the Lady. You just use the generic terms. You're not specifically honed in on a certain deity.
That is correct. I do use some specific deities like Hecate as well. I've done work with angels. I've done Celtic gods and goddesses as well. But I'm still just anchored into, and it's like if you try to get away from a tide, from the riptide, it's hard to do so, and that's how strongly a pull I feel towards the goddess and horn god.
All right. Now, you have a YouTube channel in which you have a variety of videos, most of which are very basic, very rudimentary, in which one, if they watch these videos, would see that it is more of a platform for those who are just starting out as witches, baby witches, newbie witches, whatever term you wish to use. Was this the intention that you set forth when creating this YouTube channel?
Starting off, yes, in which I wanted to be able to show the beginners, and it doesn't matter how old or young they are, anyone starting off their path, I wanted to give them a strong footing to start off with. Now I will progress and for more advanced techniques and such down the road, but I wanted to give a strong footing for those who are starting off.
I have watched every single one of these videos, and the one that really hits home is entitled "The Witch's Path," in which you were pretty much saying that a witch's path is not linear; it is actually a spiral, and it's not a perfect spiral; it's more elliptical, and it's just all over the place. But there's intersecting points. I could not agree with that more. Absolutely, 110%. What led you to actually make that video and bring that specific point up?
Well, during my path, I've noticed that sometimes we feel that we haven't really pushed ourselves too far, and it could be years, it could be months, but we all have this uh, doubt at times. I'm sure you've had a couple doubts as well uh, in your path, and it's not that we're going backwards. It's that we are continuing on our path. These are the challenges that make us stronger in our faith and in our path as well. Because without any, if you're not, let's see, how do I say this? We need to be able to be strong in our faith, and we will move on. And there's been times to where I go back and I read Teen Witch again. I mean, I go back and I'll read my beginning books again, and I keep finding new things in them. Like it's my first time reading them. So there's always something that we can learn, even if it's the topic that we know very well. I'll read a book about money magic or uh, a little bit about chaos magic, and I'm very well learned in those areas. I wanted to try to explain that to others, that that feeling, that kind of sense of placing. It's us continuing on our paths. It's not that we're going backwards. It's that we are at an intersection in our way, in our paths, um, that we will continue on, and to keep pushing on, keep following your path. And that's how I was kind of that's what I was trying to signify to others, so that way whenever they hit those points where they intersect, to keep moving on.
Now, I always try to get exclusive information from my guest. Could you, I don't know, possibly give us, a project that you're working on for your next video and what it will entail?
My videos, I'm not sure what I'm going to be doing for a next video. To be honest, I kind of do them as it hits me. I'll get a lot of ideas while I meditate. I don't have a couple videos ahead of time. So, but I am going to be working on another one uh, in the next week or so. I tried to explain a little bit more about the goddess and horn god, about where they originated from, and what they can do, how you feel them, and what they sound like.
All right, at this time, we'll just take a word from our sponsor. Do you find yourself lying awake at night, worrying about the future of your favorite podcast? Well, then let it be known that Flatline to Beatline is not opposed to being put into your will. But before you kick the can, you can support this podcast in this lifetime by visiting my Patreon page and become a patron, or my Ko-Fi page. And what funeral would be complete without the deceased wearing Flatline to Beatline merchandise? This is Nightshade, and I endorse this message. Now, moving on to your Etsy shop. Now, you have a variety of items in there, one of them being wood burning. Now, I can relate, as I love wood burning myself. I don't share that with a lot of people, but it is a growing passion. And I find it to be very stress relieving and, in a sense, very spiritual because, as you know, because you wood burn, because you have items on your Etsy shop of wood burning projects, it can be very spiritual and it draws you in and you connect with the energies of the tools that you're using, the energy of your body, the energy of the material that you're burning on. Do you feel that same sense when you wood burn as well?
Yes, I do very much so. It's putting yourself into the project more. Your energy, your passion for it is being absorbed by the wood, and helps it transform into this beautiful item that others can love as well.
Yeah, I'm not an artist. I'm really not, and I don't care if I would burn, I don't know, 5 circles, and with that energy being put into it, it would be almost like cradling your own child. It's like, don't mess with my things. And of course, you and I are both fathers, and kids tend to get into things. And my kids will tend to grab those wood burning projects, and it's almost like they're grabbing a stash of $1,000 bills or something like that. Do you get that as well? You find this connection where it's like the whole house can burn down, but I gotta grab my wood burning projects.
Oh yeah, most definitely. My kids, every time I make a altar tile or something, my oldest is like, "Ooh, I want one. I, can I do that? Can I have one?" So I'll make her one as well. So, and it's just a connection that that they love it as much. But yeah, you definitely have to grab the items that you're connected to.
Well, I bring that up because on your Etsy shop, one of your items are kind of like baby blocks that you have put. It appears to be Elder Futhark runes on there. Did you create that for your children, or was just an idea that sparked in your mind?
It was an idea. I've always seen people use runes with circular items or oblong items, and I'm like, well, why can't you use that with dice? So, and that's exactly where that idea came from, to where you can uh, hold them in your hand while you cast the runes and see what they have in store for you. And it's actually one of my most popular items.
Well, do you have any other projects that are going to be going up on your Etsy shop in the next month or so?
I do have some more altar tiles that I'm going to be putting up on the Etsy shop as well. Um, right now, I only have two different styles or two different emblems for the altar tiles, and I'm going to be putting. I'm making a few more. So one will be a pentagram, and the other one will be a crescent moon, or and the horn god emblem.
Well, do you do any finer work, like maybe portraits in wood burning or various other artistic methods?
Not yet with wood burning. I do draw quite a bit. I have actually posted my temple, in which I actually do have a lot of my drawings up on the walls and things like that. But with wood burning, I haven't tried doing a complete portrait yet. I'm actually kind of excited to try and do that, but it'll take quite a while to be able to do that.
Now, you have a quite a large following on Twitter, and you have been known to mentor, newbie witches and things of this nature. Are you looking at possibly, in a way, starting your own witchy academy, so to speak, whether it's for free or for a fee or anything like that?
I have thought about that, but what I like to do is, because everyone is in a different part of their path. So being able to assess where they are, what skill sets they have, um, what they can do very well and what they can't do very well is kind of an important thing to be able to assess before actually mentoring them. So I don't think I could really do that on, from classes. I'm not opposed to the idea, but I rather do like a kind of a one-on-one mentorship first, and maybe I'll be able to write something kind of personal for them.
Now, I did forget to ask in my initial question, what form of Wiccan are you? I mean, are you a neo Wiccan? Are you a traditional Wiccan? What path in Wicca do you follow?
Not really a traditional Wiccan. I don't think there's a whole lot of us, a lot of traditional Wiccans out there. I would say more of a neo. I've been solitary most of my practice, and the reason why I actually came on Twitter was because I heard the goddess call to me, and she said, help my children." So that's why I actually got online a couple of years ago. Was because she wanted me to be able to help people, uh, and that's why I kind of mentor them as well.
So, in closing, if you had to say anything to my listeners, anything about you, about who you are, what you want to do, any message out there, what would that be? The mic is yours.
It doesn't matter what path you follow. Always follow what feels right to you. Um, there are many different paths out there. If you want to, if you feel like you have to explore the left hand path or right hand path, don't be afraid to do so. Always ask questions as well, especially with others that are following the same path. There are a lot of us that have been doing this more than 2 decades, more than 3 decades, um, that will be more than happy to help you guys out.
So, with that, listeners, Wicca BluMoon, thank you so much for coming on the show. It is greatly appreciated.
Oh, thank you for having me. I really do appreciate everything that you do.
Thank you so much. On the next episode of Flatline to Beatline, I sit down with author and artist Laura Perry as we discuss her writings, her artwork, and the revival of Minoan paganism. Don't miss this one.